In the early 20th century, archaeologists excavating a site in southern India made a discovery that disrupted the established narrative of ancient history. They found a small gold coin, perfectly preserved, featuring the profile of a king wearing a tiered crown and holding a stalk of wheat. The script was not Sanskrit or Latin, but a language that pointed to an empire thousands of miles away across the Indian Ocean. This was not the work of Rome or Persia, but a third superpower that the modern world has almost entirely forgotten. To the merchant sailors of the 1st century, the port of Adulis on the Red Sea was the gateway to a kingdom of unimaginable wealth. This was the Kingdom of Aksum. Geographically centered in what is today northern Ethiopia and Eritrea, Aksum sat at the epicenter of a global trade network that bridged the Mediterranean with the treasures of the East. While history books often focus on the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, Aksum was its equal in commerce, military might, and cultural influence. It was the first African state to mint its own currency, a move that served as a declaration of economic sovereignty. These coins, struck in gold, silver, and bronze, circulated from the markets of Alexandria to the imperial courts of the Gupta Empire in India. The Aksumites were masters of the sea. By controlling the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow passage between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, they effectively held the keys to the ancient world's economy. Every shipment of silk, every ounce of Roman glass, and every bag of Indian spices passed through their sphere of influence. Yet, despite being ranked by Persian prophets as one of the 4 greatest empires of the world, alongside Rome, Persia, and China, Aksum has largely been relegated to the footnotes of history. We are left to wonder how a civilization that influenced 3 continents could simply vanish from the global consciousness, leaving behind only silent stone giants. The expansion of Aksum was not merely a matter of trade, it was a triumph of engineering and military strategy. By the 3rd century, under the leadership of aggressive and visionary monarchs, the kingdom expanded its borders across the Red Sea, conquering parts of modern-day Yemen and Saudi Arabia. This gave Aksum total dominance over the incense trade, a commodity as valuable in the ancient world as oil is today. Frankincense and myrrh, essential for religious rituals in Rome and beyond, were the lifeblood of the Aksumite economy. As the empire grew, so did its architectural ambitions. In the capital city of Aksum, the rulers commissioned monuments that continue to baffle modern engineers. These are the Monolithic Stelae, towering pillars of solid granite carved to resemble multi-story skyscrapers. The largest of these, known as the Great Stele, stood nearly 100 feet tall and weighed over 500 tons. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids, which were built using thousands of smaller blocks, these were single pieces of stone, quarried miles away and transported across rugged terrain. They featured false doors, windows, and intricate carvings that mirrored the timber and stone construction of Aksumite palaces. These were not just grave markers, they were symbols of a state that had mastered its environment and possessed a sophisticated understanding of physics and logistics. The middle of the 4th century marked a pivotal shift in the kingdom's identity. King Ezana, perhaps the most famous of the Aksumite rulers, underwent a conversion that would reshape the Horn of Africa forever. Inscriptions from his reign, carved into stone in 3 different languages, Sabaean, Ge'ez, and Greek, document his transition from a pagan warrior king to a Christian monarch. This made Aksum one of the very first nations to adopt Christianity as a state religion, predating much of Europe. Ezana's coins reflect this change, replacing the crescent and disc of the old gods with the Christian cross. This was a strategic as well as a spiritual move, strengthening ties with the Roman Empire and creating a unified national identity that would persist for centuries. However, the very factors that fueled Aksum's rise would eventually contribute to its isolation. To understand what happened to this kingdom, we must look at the physical evidence left behind in the soil and the records of its rivals. The primary literary source is the Book of the Aksumites, a collection of traditional documents that provides a glimpse into the legal and religious life of the state. But the more objective evidence lies in the Ge'ez inscriptions found throughout the region. Ge'ez was the liturgical and court language of Aksum, a unique script that is still used in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church today. These inscriptions tell of military campaigns and the collection of tributes, but they also begin to hint at a kingdom under pressure. By the 6th century, the geopolitical landscape was shifting. The rise of the Sasanian Empire in Persia challenged Aksum's control over the Red Sea trade. A devastating naval conflict in the Arabian Peninsula saw Aksum lose its territories across the water, cutting off its primary source of revenue. Simultaneously, the environment began to turn against the empire. Recent paleoclimatic studies suggest that the region suffered from a series of severe droughts and soil exhaustion. The intensive agriculture required to feed a sprawling imperial capital had stripped the land of its nutrients. As the rains failed and the yields diminished, the central authority of the Aksumite kings began to fracture. The final blow came from the expansion of Islamic caliphates in the 7th and 8th centuries. While Aksum initially maintained friendly relations with early Islamic leaders, providing refuge to followers of the Prophet Muhammad, the growing naval power of the caliphate eventually bypassed Adulis. The great port city, once the heart of the empire's wealth, was destroyed or abandoned. Aksum found itself geographically isolated, surrounded by a changing world, and cut off from the lucrative trade routes that had sustained it for half a millennium. As the coastal regions fell under new control, the Aksumite elite retreated into the interior. They moved south into the rugged, high-altitude plateaus of the Ethiopian highlands. Here, the empire did not so much fall as it dissolved and transformed. The grand cities were abandoned, and the monumental building projects ceased. The once great superpower became a hidden kingdom, protected by mountain fortresses and deep canyons. The central power shifted to new dynasties, such as the Zagwe, who would later carve the famous rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, a continuation of the Aksumite tradition of monolithic architecture, but on a different scale and for a different era. The erasure of Aksum from Western history was a gradual process of cultural amnesia. For centuries, Europeans spoke of a legendary Prester John, a powerful Christian king hidden somewhere in the east. They didn't realize that this legend was a distorted memory of the very real Aksumite Empire. Because Aksum was located in Africa and was eventually isolated from the Mediterranean world, it did not fit into the Eurocentric narratives of the Middle Ages. Its achievements were often dismissed or attributed to outside influences. When early travelers saw the great stelae of Aksum, they speculated they were the work of Phoenicians, or even the biblical Queen of Sheba, unable to accept that a domestic African civilization had developed such advanced engineering. Today, the site of the ancient capital remains a place of profound mystery. In 2005, the massive obelisk of Aksum, which had been looted by Italian forces in 1937, was finally returned and re-erected in its original home. Yet, much of the kingdom remains unexcavated. Only a fraction of the archaeological record has been studied, leaving thousands of years of history buried beneath the dust of the Tigray region. We are still learning about the complex social structures, the medicinal knowledge, and the metallurgical skills of a people who once commanded the respect of the world's greatest leaders. The story of Aksum is a reminder that history is not a linear progression, but a series of peaks and valleys. Empires that seem eternal can be rendered invisible by a shift in climate, a change in trade routes, or the simple passage of time. The people of Aksum did not disappear. Their descendants still live in the highlands, preserving a culture, a language, and a faith that was forged in the fires of an ancient superpower. They are the living evidence of a kingdom that the rest of the world chose to forget. As we look at the silent monoliths that still stand in Aksum, some leaning at precarious angles and others shattered on the ground, they pose a question to our own modern civilizations. If a kingdom that once rivaled Rome can be erased from the collective memory of the West, what will remain of our own achievements in 1,000 years? The stones of Aksum do not speak, but their presence is a powerful testament to a lost chapter of human history that is only now being rediscovered. While Aksum represents a mystery of the deep past, the 20th century holds secrets of its own, hidden beneath the waves of a different ocean. In our next episode, we move from the mountains of Africa to the depths of the Pacific, investigating a top-secret CIA operation that used a billionaire's cover story to attempt one of the most daring recoveries in the history of espionage, Project Azorian.